Welcome to this explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today because every single time someone talks about AI, data science, or machine learning, they always say the exact same thing. Data is the foundation. Data is everything. But here's the crazy part. Nobody actually stops to explain what data is. Fundamentally, what are we even talking about? Well, let's dive into this and completely demystify what data actually is before we even think about touching those complex AI concepts. Have you ever tried to learn machine learning or tried to build an AI system only to just feel totally lost? You're definitely not alone there. That gap is exactly what breaks people early on. They stumble because the absolute basics of data are never clearly explained, leaving the whole foundation shaky. So today, we're going back to the absolute basics. And I promise you, if you grasp this properly, everything that comes after it becomes dramatically easier. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with 1. The foundation of data, move into 2, rows, columns, and tables, then explore 3, why data types matter. From there, we'll cover 4, structured versus unstructured data, and finally tie it all together with 5, the real-world data picture.
Let's jump right into section 1, the foundation of data.
Okay, I want you to visualize the most universally recognized tool for data in the world. Open any spreadsheet, Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets, honestly, it really doesn't matter. What do you see? You see a simple grid. You have rows going across and you have columns going down, and that's it. Believe it or not, that incredibly simple visual is the exact mental model you need for almost all structured data. It's literally the foundation of databases, SQL, and even advanced programming libraries. Moving on to section 2, rows, columns, and tables. To really deconstruct this into building blocks, let's look at a concrete example of a fictional sales team tracking their orders. Look at how instantly readable this grid makes the data. The top row gives us our headers: customer name, product, date, amount, and paid. Below that, we have our actual information. So Amit Kumar bought a laptop on the 3rd of July for $42,000, and yes, he paid. Priya Sharma bought a phone. Raj Mehta bought a tablet but hasn't paid yet. We're looking at just 3 rows and 5 columns, but it's already incredibly useful, right? Now, let's isolate the rows for a second. Each row going across is called a record, or an observation, or an entry. People use a bunch of different words, but it's the exact same idea. One row equals one complete thing that happened. In our example, it's one sale. If you add a new sale tomorrow, well, you simply add a new row to the bottom. Now look at the columns going vertically down. Each column is one specific type of information collected about every single row. Customer name is a column, amount is a column. So the really crucial point here is that every row answers the exact same set of questions, and those questions are defined by your columns. If you suddenly decide you want to track a new piece of information, like the customer's city, you just add a new column. You're going to constantly hear industry jargon like dataset and table, and people often use them interchangeably. But there is a subtle yet really important distinction. A table is exactly what we just looked at. One specific, clean grid of rows and columns. No merged cells, no chaotic color-coded meanings that only the intern understands, just clean, readable data. A dataset, however, is a broader collection of related data. It could be one table, or it could be 5 different related tables, all connected together serving a specific purpose. All right, section 3, why data types matter. I have to warn you, this is a critical concept that most people gloss over entirely at their own peril. A data type simply describes what kind of information is stored in a column. And here's the big secret. The type dictates exactly what operations a computer can perform on that column. The 4 main ones you're going to encounter are text, number, date, and boolean. Let's break these down real quick. First up, we have text, which is sometimes called a string or character data. This is for words, names, and categories. Things like Amit Kumar or laptop. Now, you absolutely cannot do math on text. You can't calculate the average of customer names. Conversely, numbers, whether they are whole integers or decimals like floats, allow for math. You can sum up a column of 42,000 and 18,500. You can average them. You can easily find the maximum. Next, dates. They look simple, but they are their own special type because they allow for time-based operations. You can ask the system, hey, how many days between these 2 dates? Or sort these chronologically. Finally, we have Boolean data. This one is beautifully simple. It can only be one of 2 values, true or false, yes or no, 1 or 0. Back in our sales tracker, the paid column was Boolean. It was either yes, they paid, or no, they didn't. And this brilliantly illustrates why this whole thing matters. If you get the type wrong, you get the analysis wrong. Every single time. There's a very common, incredibly painful mistake people make where they store dates as text instead of as a date type. What happens? The system sorts the dates alphabetically instead of chronologically. Suddenly, August comes before February, and your data's order is completely ruined. Absolute chaos. Every operation you want to do depends on the data type being correct. Which brings us to Section 4, Structured versus Unstructured Data. Okay, prepare for a bit of a dramatic pivot, because everything we've discussed so far, the neat rows, the columns, the clear data types, is just a tiny, tiny fraction of the bigger picture. Here is the big aha moment. That perfect grid of structured rows and columns, it only makes up about 20% of a typical business's data. Yep, just 20%. The other 80% is what we call unstructured data. For a lot of people, this completely breaks their mental model of what data is because they just assume everything lives in a spreadsheet. Unstructured data is the messy reality of business. We're talking about emails, PDF contracts, voice recordings of sales calls, massive logs of customer support chats, product images, and video files. There's absolutely no row and column structure here. Every single item is completely different. The valuable information is definitely in there, but you can't just drop 1,000 emails into Excel and run a pivot table. It requires entirely different extraction tools. Just to give you the totally complete picture, there is also a middle ground called semi-structured data. This includes things like JSON files, XML, your WhatsApp chat exports, or API responses. They have labels and a little bit of organization, but they certainly aren't a flat, clean table. They sit right between the perfect spreadsheet and the messy email thread. And finally, Section 5, the real-world data picture. Let's bring all these concepts together and see how this operates in a living, breathing business. Anchoring back to our sales team, in the real world, their structured dataset would likely be several connected tables. They'd have an orders table tracking the dates and amounts, a separate customers table tracking names and cities, and a products table tracking prices. Because these are clean, structured, and connected, you can ask almost any quantitative business question. Which city buys the most laptops? Boom, the database can answer that instantly. But right alongside those pristine, clean tables sits the rich, messy, unstructured reality of the team's daily operations. They have 10 years of winding email threads where customers are expressing frustration or joy. They have massive PDF contracts layered with highly specific legal terms. They have thousands of hours of voice recordings from every sales call ever made. For decades, companies knew this data was valuable, but it just sat there, totally unanalyzable. And this is exactly why this matters so much right now. The AI revolution isn't just some tech buzzword. It is literally the key to unlocking that 80%. LLMs, or large language models, can read that unstructured text and actually pull meaning from it. RAG, or retrieval augmented generation systems, can instantly find specific clauses across thousands of PDF contracts. Computer vision can analyze product images. AI is the bridge that finally makes the messy 80% of business data accessible. Learning to look at the world and instantly spot what is structured and what is unstructured is the start of building a true analyst mindset. If you want to keep building that mindset, I highly recommend checking out the source material this explainer was based on. You can participate in the 90-day AI challenge by subscribing at youtube.com/@Sahil_AI_academy. Connect directly with Sahil on LinkedIn. And if you're looking for real mentorship to become an AI engineer, definitely visit trinitycorps.org. I want to leave you with a final thought to test out your brand new mental model. Look at the information around you right now. The tabs open on your browser, the text messages on your phone, the receipts sitting on your desk. Is it structured, unstructured, or semi-structured? Once you start seeing the world through this lens of data, you can really never unsee it. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.